Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 8th season of the StarrCast Podcast. It's been a nice summer hiatus, but we're ready to get back into telling the stories for wellness professionals. This season, we're starting our journey in London. Why London, right? Well, there's a lot going on there in case you haven't read the news lately. If you haven't been to London, it's an amazing city. And of course, it's a top draw for anyone in the world. Everyone wants to go to London. The history, the culture, the beautiful accents, having tea, and of course, the monarchy, all things that no one else has that great combination. London is home, the metropolitan area, to 9 million people, so very large city, but continuing to grow, even though real estate prices are off the charts. Why are people moving in? You know, there's stability, there's a good legal system, people feel that there's a stable political climate, even though UK people may not feel the same. So it attracts a lot of visitors and a lot of people that want to move there. I spend time in London whenever I can, and this summer I spent maybe 2 days there and visited. There are so many new spas opening, it's crazy. So I thought it's time that we dive down into what's happening in the London spa market. So here we are, and we are joined today by two ladies, Taffryn Ellis, the Director of Wellness for Six Senses London, which has yet to open, and Hattie David-Wilkinson, the Director of Spa for Claridges, recently named in the top #1 in UK, right, on the top 50 best list. Amazing property if you were ever fortunate enough to stay there. So thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having us, Lisa.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. So Taffryn, let's start with you. Could you just give the listeners a brief overview of you, like how you came to be in your role and your history in the spa industry?
Sure. So originally when I left school, I actually wanted to become a doctor because I wanted to help people, and did a bit of a tour of a hospital and got to the children's ward. And in the children's ward at the time of my visit, there was a little baby that was dying. Oh. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I can cope with that. So I want to help people, but I don't want to face that part. And at that stage, I was a teenager, I was very young. I had a very bad skin. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to help people with bad skin. And so I studied at one of the top skincare academies in South Africa and qualified as a beauty therapist, did all the trainings with that, and then started practicing as a beauty therapist for the first 5 years of my career before moving sort of more into the director and the financial side.
You grew up in South Africa, right?
That's right, yes.
And when did you come to the UK?
I've been in the UK for 7 years now.
Uh-huh. Great. And so what was your first spa job in the UK?
First one was Four Seasons. I was incredibly privileged and honored to exactly. I arrive in the UK from South Africa. Nobody knows me, and I walk into the flagship for Four Seasons in London. So such an honor and such a privilege. And I was there for 6 years. So all of my career for London has been with Four Seasons.
And you were director of spa when you left there?
Yes.
And you branched out to Six Senses. We'll get back into that later. Hattie, could you share with us your story?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of a quirky, I suppose, I kind of fell into this. So I left university and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. But I grew up in the 90s. So I grew up in peak diet culture. So for me, health and wellness was always an obsession and interest, because that's just how it was, but probably in a more negative way. But my first, I suppose, foray into this was I worked at Grace Belgravia around 10 years ago now, which was a women's only health and wellness club near Knightsbridge in London, so in the heart of London. So it was a private members club for women, which blended medical with spa. So that was 10 years ago. So they were doing it in an urban setting quite early on. And so that was my first foray. And then I since opened 3 more private members clubs. So 2 more social clubs. And then I worked with the Lanzerhof Group, which is an Austrian-German, typically resort-based company, to launch an urban space in partnership with the Arts Club in London. And so I did that opening for just shy of 4 years before coming to my first hotel, which was Claridges, so to open their first ever spa. So jumping from club to hotel has been quite the difference, but that's where I am now.
Interesting, the clubs that you mentioned. I mean, that's not a thing in most other countries, like the way you have that sort of club and member culture, but I like it. I visited Grace Belgravia when it was open, and I thought this is the coolest place, like just for women, with the gym and the hair salon and the restaurant and the spa treatments and exercise. And
Yeah,
I was very sad to see it didn't survive, I guess, COVID. I don't remember when it
it was
closed.
just before then, actually, funnily enough. It was just before COVID, but it was almost ahead of its time in many
Right.
ways. And also it was quite a bold statement to be women's only. And so it was obviously a retaliation to the traditional private members clubs that are for men only in London, as you just sort of touched upon. So it was our retaliation to that, was to be a sanctuary for women. That was the idea. So a club with restaurant, gym, spa for women only, and then this medical clinic and medical integration running through it as well.
So you also ended up at a top hotel. If listeners don't know about Claridges, you're missing out. I mean, it's an amazing property with a storied history. I was lucky enough to stay there for a few nights last year, and it was quite special. But they never really had a spa, right? Until they did the whole excavation. So what drove them after all that time to create a spa?
Exactly. It's wild to think about, but Claridges has only had a purpose-built spa for 2 years. And as you said, in the history of the hotel, which is just shy of 150 years, it feels wild. But Claridges sort of expanded in every possible direction over the last 7 years. So we went up, we went to the side, and as you just said, we dug down. And so the digging down allowed us to from scratch begin to design a spa. And so we've opened phase 1, but we still have phase 2 to come.
Oh, it will be even larger. Give us the scope of the spa now, Hattie. It's got the pool, it's got the hair salon. How many treatment rooms?
Exactly. So we have 7 treatment rooms, one of which is a hammam room, and then 6 which are multifunctional rooms. A swimming pool, sauna, steam in the changing rooms, the gym. It's 7,000 square feet. It's designed by Andre Fu. So it's taken inspiration from the East in terms of the design there. So it feels very different to the rest of Claridges, which is on purpose. You feel sort of cocooned in this different world when you're down there. But as you've just touched on, I think the ownership, our management team here have realized that even since the initial planning 7 years ago, the world and the industry here in London and the other hotels available has changed so much. And so we need more. So we're going from 7,000 square feet. We have another 12,500 still to come. So wow. It's, And so there's going to be even more. So going from nothing to 2 floors eventually of spa and wellness here.
Like it was a good idea. The hotel is gorgeous and beautiful, but in the older style. And you dig down 6 floors they dug down below the. I can't even believe it. But this is the way you build in London now, right? Going down. And the spa, I think it's a smart idea to have made it new and different and not try to emulate that old style of how things were built 100 years ago. And it is you don't feel like you're underground. The lighting's really well done.
Thank you. And you also don't feel like you're in Mayfair either, which I think is quite important. You don't feel like you're in a city.
Right. That is the point. So, Taffryn, when is Six Senses expected to open?
We're hoping to open May, June 2025. So a little bit behind schedule, but lots of good reasons behind that. So it's a good delay.
What construction project has ever ended on time? I mean, it's just not happening. And I can't imagine the challenges of building in a tight urban environment. I'm sure there are just many obstacles to overcome.
Absolutely.
So on that note of Six Senses, the new spot Claridges, and the new openings, I mean, if I look at my list of what has opened recently in London, we have the Raffles at the Old War Office, we have the Emery, Mandarin's second property, the Peninsula, the Bulgari, Rosewood, One Hotel, and those are all in maybe the last 18 months. So what's going on? What's this? What's behind this growth in London in your minds?
I mean, I think, London is, a capital city that's obviously draws a vast business market. Got a strong financial market. We've got local, local people that live here. Many have London as their second home. We've got a massive convention market as well, top conventions from all over the world coming to London. We've obviously got the whole rise and peak in the wellness industry. So, I think when people are coming, and people are becoming savvy now, your hotel guest, your local guest, people are looking for wellness, a mix of the holistic with the wellness as well. So I think, London just lends itself to, it's a growing market, it's a growing city, and, people are looking for a top dollar place to come and stay and spend their time and have a quality experience. So definitely there's lots happening, and I think we've got the market for it.
I read recently, I was in Condé Nast Traveller, they were saying that London's becoming the new LA, and I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but it does feel like that. And I think you're right, Taffryn. I think, we've got more and more tourism coming to London now as well since COVID, and especially for us, we feel like the American market is really back now as well. And so we're obviously trying to innovate and change what we're doing here to be able to cater to that market. And from a wellness point of view, obviously being able to offer them the facilities that one would need to continue what they're used to doing in, let's say, East Coast and West Coast in particular.
Actually, London is the new LA. It will at least be easier to get around in than LA is. So we have that going for you.
Yeah, we just don't have the weather.
Yeah, not as good weather, but much better transport infrastructure. So I'm interested that you're saying that this wellness push has really carried through because consumers are asking for it. And of course, the media coverage is nonstop on spa and wellness for us, which is great. We wanted that for years, and now we have their attention. But every new hotel, all those I mentioned, have opened with fabulous new spas too. And the prices are not inexpensive. I mean, what are you charging, Hattie? What's your range for massages in your properties, in the Mayborn Group properties?
Yeah, so we're all fairly similar across. So we have 3 London hotels, and so we're all around sort of £195 to £220 for a 60-minute massage. So that's your sort of your starting level, I suppose. And that can go up. I mean, at Claridges, that can go up to sort of, £350, for example, for a 90-minute facial.
Wow. And yet people are paying it. You're not having resistance.
No. And we have a hair salon in partnership with Josh Wood, for example, here in our spa, which is an amazing celebrated hairstylist. And we charge £195 for a blow dry.
Blow dry?
When I was first joining, sounded ludicrous to me, but we've genuinely had, they're amazing, the stylists that we work with here. And so we've never had backlash, believe it or not, in terms of our pricing. But we're very transparent. It's on our website. It's in all of our brochures. We're not trying to hide anything here. But the spa is an interesting piece anyway for the hotel because it is a little bit more accessible, even though you're saying this, than staying at Claridges. Right? So coming for a massage at Claridges as a non-hotel guest and being able to have a little taste of Claridges here, £195 or £220 compared to staying for the night, is much more accessible, but equally important for us as well from a business point of view.
That's a great point. It's like buying the lipstick, at the counter instead of something more expensive. So they can say they were at Claridges and get a great Claridges experience without spending the room rate night, which is, $1,200 a night, £1,200.
Yeah, average room rate's $1,400 at the moment.
$1,400, sorry. Okay.
It's going up as we speak.
Going up for sure. Are you seeing, Hattie, that clients are interested in trying new services, or are they kind of going for the tried and true?
Yeah, that's unfortunately, it's quite a boring answer, but our most popular treatment is always a bespoke massages, which is our sort of just signature massage. And so I suppose it's up to us as a team or as a reception team to try and encourage and create and suggest slightly more exciting services or layering or adding on top. But essentially, we have quite a conservative guest often, and so a massage is what they want. So then it's up to us to make it even more magic around.
So what about programming for Six Senses, Taffryn? I mean, you're known for being cutting edge wellness. What are you planning to do that might be a little new for the market?
So that's a good question. Another luxury hotel joining, on the Strip. And I think with Six Senses, it's bringing, I think what's important for all of us is to make sure that we stay differentiated and offer something unique. And we all have different guest types. So, Hattie's right. Unfortunately, from my experience working in London as well, the majority of the guests want massage. I think post-COVID, massage has become something that everybody feels is not a treat or a luxury anymore. Facials perhaps are still seen as a luxury because there's so much that you can do at home for yourself now. You can buy your LED mask online, buy your cleanser, your toner, and do your skincare and do your thing at home. But I think a lot of people still feel that massage is, well, this is part of my taking care of myself. As much as I spend money on my health club membership, I'm going to have a massage once a week, once a month. So I think with Six Senses, why we are coming, this is going to be our first real urban location. Obviously, we've done Rome, but traditionally, Six Senses has been remote destinations because the focus has been on wellness and sustainability and getting away, from the rat race. But we've just had so many of our guests saying, well, a lot of us are business people, a lot of us travel. So when we go to urban cities, we still want to take care of our health and our wellness. And so that's the reason why we're doing this pilot. We're going to be the flagship for the company. We're going to be opening up in a lot of urban cities all over the world following soon. And also we're going to be the first to pilot a first for Six Senses called Six Senses Place, which is also a membership with a very big focus on the social side of it. So obviously wellness driven, because that's what Six Senses is all about, but very much the social part of it. And then, of course, the sustainability as well, which is, one of the main pillars for Six Senses. So our guest type, we've kind of categorized 3 guest type for Six Senses, which I really love. And it's called the Leave Me Alone guest. So guests that come to your hotel.
We all know who they are.
Yeah. Not interested. I like luxury. I'll have that if I want to. I'll drink loads of wine if I want to. I'll have what I want to maybe I'll go to the gym. Maybe I won't. Leave me alone. Then we have the curious guests. So they're the ones that come and go, ooh, I'd like to see what's all this latest biohacking and all this tech that you're talking about. So I'm curious to know. And then, of course, we have the wellness warrior, which is the Six Senses wellness warrior. They only travel to Six Senses properties because they know they've got their visiting practitioner there. They know they've got food on the menus, all driven towards wellness, the sleep, the room set up for, we've got sleep programs. If you want to be on a detox program, if you want to be on a longevity program, we're coming for fitness. So that's more or less where we're going to be obviously focusing and driving the Six Senses. So I think in that way, it's quite a unique concept in London. Obviously, still addressing the luxury market, but just bringing wellness to an urban setting in a very different and unique way.
That's fascinating. I visited Six Senses Rome this summer too, and it was gorgeous. This beautiful property and beautiful detail, and did you feel comfortable the moment you come in? So I can't wait to see what you do in London. But it's interesting the way you categorize the guests, and I guess having a membership or club component will be perfect in London, right? Where the city of clubs and memberships. We shall see. Hattie, I know you're not at Lanzerhof anymore, but not asking you to speak for them, but you were a membership person. I mean, how was the reception to Lanzerhof when it first opened?
It was funny because, of course, Lanzerhof is an Austrian German brand. So coming into a new area entirely for them. So not just coming into an urban dwelling, but coming into a completely new space for them was interesting, because essentially what we were trying to do was completely new. And also from a members club point of view, members clubs typically, as you sort of touched on earlier, are social clubs. You know, they're clubs where you indulge and you enjoy yourselves. And so bringing this idea of an exclusive membership club, an exclusive model with a membership committee, and you apply for membership, but bringing that model to your health is interesting. But in terms of what we were doing, once somebody came in and had a look around, I think they totally understood. So the idea was that you would join as a member, you would have diagnostic testing at the beginning, and then your plan for the next year was mapped for you based on that testing. So it's this very similar principle as Lanzerhof in the resorts, in that the first thing you do is you see a doctor, and that is your plan then for the week is dictated by that appointment and those tests. And that's what we were doing, but based over a year model. But as Taffryn said, that was a lot of challenges then, because of course people are distracted and they have their lives and they have their children and their stresses. So it was a different model, but it was a very effective one once people were in.
Well, we'll see how that works at Six Senses too. I mean, people, I love that sense of putting out a plan. We always talk about this in spa. I mean, how much difference can we really make in the life of a customer in an hour or 90 minutes, right? They come for their facial, their massage, or maybe both, 3 hours. Okay, but we're not miracle workers. So the idea of laying out a plan and also, of course, assuming they'll come back and creating that future revenue, I think is a really good strategy.
Definitely. And also that's what helps create your loyalty as well. But the beauty of testing, of course, is that you can retest. And the minute that you retest, and if you show that you've changed somebody's life in that way, you have bought their loyalty almost forever as well. So that's why having medical included within this club version of spa is so important and so clever as well.
Well,
I think testing, sorry, just, on the point of testing as well, I think that's so important because, if we look at all the guest types in the marketplace at the moment, I think everybody is very data driven. They want, they want the data behind it. They want the science behind it. They want the clinical trials behind that. And that's everything. Six Senses doesn't put anything on the menu that doesn't have any of that. And I think your diagnostics is so important, and people want that. So part of our delivery to guests that come to our spa is going to be a wellness screening. So it's a bioimpedance test that marks over 51 biomarkers in the body. And this is going to be your consultation. So this is not is your skin dry today? How do you, obviously, how do you want to feel? But it's going to be a very data-driven wellness screening before you even start your journey with us in the spa. And then we will lead you on a journey through the spa, obviously through the facilities, and then taking you through a mixture of holistic hands-on on treatments, but also with some biohacking, because I think, biohacking is, it's so big at the moment, and it's so important because people don't have time. And that's what biohacking is at the end of the day, right? It's just hacking your biology to get a quick result. And you can do that naturally through things like an ice bath, or you can do it with tech, something like an ARX machine, workout on the machine, or the Juvent micro juvenation platform, to stimulate your bone density. So I think diagnostics and testing people are wanting that, and adding that into the whole sort of socially driven space where you can come and still work, have a bit of social, take care of your wellness, and, just be in an environment that's catering to your wellness needs. We're going to be doing lots of talks in our social club with, sort of lots of really qualified, interesting people that are going to come and share things. So I think that's that's super important. And we definitely be making use of diagnostics.
Tell me a little bit more about the screening. How will that be done? Is it a person? Is it a device? Is it a combination?
So basically, you'll come in and you'll fill out a brief little questionnaire, and then you just have an oximeter put on your finger, which is then attached to a computer, and you'll put your feet on some plates for the current to go through for the bioimpedance measuring. And then it's literally a 1.5 minute test. Within the test, you do a little bit of a stand up and a sit down so that we can just also monitor your cardiovascular response rate and recovery rate. And then we get a printout of all these biomarkers from your autonomic system, your cardiovascular system. It's fascinating. I did one when I went to Dura Valley for my onboarding. And the test showed that my blood oxygen levels were really not so great at night. And I was like, well, that was quite interesting. And I started doing some breathwork classes, which I never would have thought of doing because I do a lot of running, I do a lot of strength training. And the biomarkers on my sheet said that I should try and do some more things like yoga and breathwork, which was interesting for me because I think I'm quite I'm in London, so you're in the pace. So you want to run to get off the stress. I don't want to breathe, I can breathe another time. And just in that week, because we measured, I did a measurement at the beginning, at the end, my blood oxygen went up 4%. And it was literally from doing breath work. And I found this fascinating. Well, people don't know this. They come into the spa, they come and they go, I'm stressed, I just want a massage. But maybe massage is not really what they need, Maybe they just need some red light therapy bed with a hammam treatment. A hammam treatment is a beautiful treatment that can be very emotional and very spiritual as well, with all that water washing over you and that exfoliation and that cleansing. So I think this testing is really going to be exciting to really help guests, help us navigate that guest on a wellness journey that's very, very specifically curated for them.
I think it's amazing that they did that with you as part of your onboarding as well. And like you just said, it's the testing and then the retesting as well, just being able to do that in such a short period of time and showing the difference you made by something that, as you said, you would never have prioritized otherwise.
Yeah. And I think the timing is important because, when you're in an urban setting, you want fast results. You don't want to wait for anything. You want to see something. You want to feel good quickly. You don't have a lot of time. So I'm really, really excited about this little piece of equipment that we're going to be using for all our guests.
And I think it's so funny because, like you just said, I think there's a real movement at the moment to move towards things to deal with stress that are quite stressful themselves. So like cryotherapy, cold plunge, there's almost like this pleasure and pain trend at the moment, which can be amazing. There's a huge benefits to that. But as you just said, going back to the basics and something like your breath or calming down and accessing your parasympathetic nervous system that way isn't as sexy, but actually is even more effective or can be more effective.
For sure. And just being able to offer that choice to the guest because everyone's different. I'm going to be very honest and straight up and say, I haven't even tried the cryotherapy. I went to a cold plunge pool, never mind an ice bath. The pool was 10 degrees, the ice bath 63 degrees. I did not get past my feet. And I got out there and I just thought, why do I want to do this to myself? It's not pleasant. I don't care how good I feel about this afterwards. I want to do something else, So I like to sweat it out. My favorite thing, I've got it at home, is an infrared sauna blanket. And
blanket,
love it. I have it twice a week. It's helped me with my training. It's helped me with my recovery. It keeps me detoxified. And I absolutely love that. So, I think we've got a little bit of everything for everyone there. And I think that's what's key, is to be able to take a guest on a journey that's really good for them, but to help them find that journey as well, because they don't always know what's best for them.
Key that we are helping them find what works for them. Like you said, Taffryn. I mean, I agree. I don't love being cold, and I have done cryotherapy several times. I'm getting a little more used to it. The cold bath, that's hard, but you know, you do feel great afterwards. But if it's no fun while you're doing it, don't torture people. But we have data. Like everyone is going around with one of their, watches. I've got my Fitbit on, right?
Got my ring.
Aura ring. We're all showing on the video. We're all showing our devices, and so consumers do respond to data, and it's hard to ignore the numbers. I had a body scan yesterday at the Beyond Active show in New York, and it was like, oh, really? And then I did a grip test. They have you hold in a different company. Wow. You hold a device and you squeeze it, and they were putting up the numbers of the people who had the best grips. And the women were in the 80s, and mine was 55. And I'm like, oh my God, I better get back to the gym. So, you know, because numbers don't lie, right? And when you can show someone their number or where they are on a graph, I think they respond much more than saying, well, you should do this or that. So data is king once again, and we'll see what happens at Sixth Senses. I think it's interesting that we have sort of two opposites of the pole here on this podcast, because Hattie will be doing the people who want nothing to do with the data, just give me a massage, and Sixth Senses will have the latest and greatest tech tools for everyone. It'll be fun to see how that plays out. So are there enough clients to go around? I mean, this is a lot of spas. I don't know how many are in central London even. I'm sure you guys don't either, but there's a lot, and they're big and they're grand. Do you think there's enough customers for everyone?
I mean, I personally do. I think there's plenty to go around. Like I said, you've got so many different type of guests. You know, you've got your local guests, you've got local visiting guests, you've got those with the second homes that are kind of in and out of London. You've got your business people, you've got your convention people, you've got your tourists. And, you know, I think we just need to differentiate ourselves and find out what we can deliver that's unique. And, you know, there may be somebody who just goes, do you know what? I just want a nice massage with a beautiful high tea. And Claridges, hello, it's the most beautiful, iconic property. I mean, anybody that gets invited to afternoon tea at Claridges, it's your dream come true. Or you might have somebody who goes, oh no, I'm stressed. I want to go and have, you know, some diagnostic testing done and just find a space where I can just, you know, have a mental break, or, you know, we can have lots of biophilia everywhere as well. So it's going to be this whole sort of sensory journey as well. So I think there's just so many different types of people in London, and there's plenty. I think there's plenty of people and plenty of people to keep us busy. I know we were busy at Four Seasons, and I know Hattie's busy, so there's plenty.
Yeah, I think there's enough people, as you say, but then I think the competition can only be a good thing as well, because it keeps you innovating and it keeps us on our toes, and it means that we can't become too complacent. I mean, we have two other spas as part of our group within a 2-mile radius of where I am now. So I'm competing with my sister's spas as well, in a friendly competition kind of way, like true sisters. But we are, and so I think the competition is good because it keeps us moving. And so, as I said, we've gone from having no spa to opening 7,000 square feet of a spa, to then being able to change our business plan and have another 12,000 square feet to join it. And that's because we are competing more and more, and we have to keep innovating and stay ahead of the curve.
Well, have all of these openings affected your ability to hire? I mean, I have to think that there has been a challenge, as there has been globally, in getting enough qualified therapists. What are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely. And also, we're not just competing with other spas, we're competing with working freelance. So post-COVID, there was a real movement to having a bit more flexibility with work. So a lot of the therapists now are working for agencies or are working for themselves. And so you're competing with that model as well. And so it's been definitely difficult. Taffryn, would you agree with Four Seasons? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think particularly within the hotel spas, because of the hours, you know, your normal standalone day spas or beauty salons are pretty much 9 to 5. Hotel spas, open at 6 a.m, close at 9 p.m. So, post-COVID, work-life balance has become important to people. As Hattie said, a lot of the therapists have gone, well, do you know what? We learned to live on a little bit less post-COVID. So now we only want to work 4 days a week or 2 days a week here and another day there, or be, at an agency as a freelance where you choose the shifts that you want to work. So it's definitely had a very big impact. And I also think that with the rise in wellness and biotech coming in, we have to look at now at the education as well. So, we're struggling. The education hasn't quite caught up with that yet. So I'm finding that education is a place that's going to have to be a big piece that comes into it as well. I'm looking particularly just for the Six Senses property with the biohacking equipment. I mean, I've been wrapping my head around it for the last 9 months because it's stuff that it's incredible. And this is stuff that I have to now share with my team to deliver these services to guests. So I think, education is something that's going to become key in developing therapists that we've got, and keeping them engaged and keeping them interested as well. But definitely, I think post-COVID, we've seen a big drop in the market, and it's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah, and also, of course, I mean, it's a bit not out of date now, but of course we've had Brexit as well, which means that the pool of therapists that we had here that were mainly from Europe is slightly smaller now as well. It hasn't halved, but it is smaller than it once was as well. So we've got less talent to look at. But as Taffryn was saying, then the emphasis really has to be on keeping the staff that we do have then motivated, developed, excited, rewarded, all of those things as well, because it's tough to bring new staff in.
And also the cost of living, sorry, Lisa, that's another, it's a really big issue, the cost of living. A lot of people have moved out of the city now because it's cheaper to live in the countryside. So, the cost of living's had a huge impact as well, because, we've had to look at salaries and just go, you've got to make it workable for somebody to be able to live in London. They can't live outside of London and travel into London, because then you're looking at an hour and a half's journey. So that's, 3 hours on top of your 9-hour working day to give you a 12. This is not going to work. So I think cost of living's had a very big impact as well.
I'm going to ask what you know about your payroll. Like, can either of you share what your payroll percentage of your revenue is, just in broad terms?
It's high. It's our biggest expense by far.
Right.
I mean, that's to be expected, but it fluctuates a little month on month, but it's definitely the most talked about item in terms of our P&L each month.
Absolutely. It's the majority. It's the majority of the P&L. So,
well, it's the majority in any spa, really, but we're seeing it creep up again. I looked at a spa P&L last week where their labor was 62% of their revenue. Wow. And, that's a lot. That's quite a lot. And, it really needs to be in the high 40s, say, for the place to be profitable. But the pressure continues, especially in cities like you're in, with the cost of living going up. As you made a great point, Taffryn, we need our people to be able to get to work in 40 minutes, right? Not an hour and a half. So that's a challenge we're going to have to continue to deal with in many urban environments. So I'm glad you touched on Brexit, Hattie. For listeners who don't realize, around the world, people who go to beauty school get a beauty therapist license, and they can practice in many countries other than the United States, which has an antiquated plan. Everywhere else, you can be a beauty therapist and go from country to country and work, which I think is wonderful. But Brexit has certainly cut down, you're saying, some of your options.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously COVID with Brexit at similar timing didn't help that either. And as Taffryn said, cost of living, reflections on life and family. And so a lot of the teams at that time that was my experience anyway, moved back to their home countries at that time, or moved to other pursuits as well. So the pool is slightly smaller than it once was as well.
Yeah.
What kind of things can you do to keep your therapists and not have them jump to the next newest place that opens? What are some things besides paying them? Have you found any secrets?
For me, it's definitely having to bring in the work-life balance, and particularly in a hotel spa, you know, so really looking at how, looking at shifts and trying to at least have a weekend off, where traditionally if you work in a hotel, it's like, so that, your day off during the week. And if you want to be off every weekend, you have to take holidays. So it's just trying to work-life balance, and then your work environment as well, being able to offer them a healthy meal, to be able to offer them a healthy environment to work in. Education, I think, is key as well. Keeping therapists, and not only therapists, remember the whole experience within a spa is your spa attendant is a crucial role, so important. Your spa receptionist, it's your first and your last, sort of impression of a spa. So I think, education, looking at work-life balance, obviously looking at benefits and salaries, and it's hugely competitive. I mean, Hattie and I, we know, I was at a tour at a spa the other day, and a whole of us directors walked in, and half the team were hugging some of the directors because they used to work there before, so all the directors are, we're phoning each other going, oh, this one's wanting to come over, and we're like, okay. So, there's a little bit of a, so it's really tough because, you've got a business to run. You've got a P&L to meet, you've got your profitability to make, and, the people are demanding certain things to manage their work-life balance. So for me, it's work-life balance, training, education, being empathetic, listening to people. I sometimes have some therapists that like to work mornings, some that like to evening. Then I go, great, you take the morning shift, you take the evening shift. I kind of say to them, who likes what, who doesn't like what. We kind of work it out. And then, of course, once in a while, you'll have to do something that's not quite what you like, but at least it's only once in a while.
Exactly that. I think you have to be a lot more flexible than in other industries, for example. So we had a supervisor join our spa team. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but she had an F&B background traditionally. And so her coming in to run our scheduling and our rota, which was one of her responsibilities, it took her a while because she was so used to this black and white mentality of, I tell you to work this shift and you do it. And as Taffryn just said, you have to be more flexible, you have to be more empathetic, and there's actually no harm to a business if you do have people that can agree on different shifts and it works better for them. And so you have to be, unfortunately, sometimes a little bit more of a kind of mother hen down there, and listen to everyone's concerns and complaints and try and give them as much balance as they possibly can. And being in a hotel spa compared to a day spa, again, we're open 365 days of the year. So you have to work Christmas Day, New Year's Day. So again, any kind of flexibility that we can give on that. And some of our team have different cultures. And so we can, make it work from that point of view and make sure that everybody is as happy as they possibly can be. But it's an emotional job. And what they're doing is emotional. And therefore, we have to display the same level of empathy and emotion when it comes to managing and running, motivating, I suppose, that team as well.
Yeah.
Any sort of benefits or perks that were really effective at getting people's attention and making them say, oh, I think I'll stay here?
I always, if I like somebody on an interview, I'll always take them down to our staff restaurant, because that's what did it for me when I was first meeting with our general manager here. We have an incredible staff restaurant. We have a barista. You can have your steak cooked to order every day. It's ridiculous. Wow. It is ridiculous. And so if I like someone, I normally try and schmooze them by taking them down there and showing off that bit. And it's simple, but as Taffryn said, having a healthy meal available each day, and they can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there if they want, and that's a cost saving as well. Is normally one of the things I have up my sleeve. And then obviously we do incentives for the team. working in a hotel, you get perks in terms of travel and staying over and all of this wonderful things, but it's hard.
Yeah. I think for me, it's also trying to assess the individual, because there are different things that are important for different people. Yeah. For some, it's the meal. For some, it's not the meal, it's incentives. For some, it's time. For some, it's I want to know that I it's work progression is available to me. So I think it's just really getting to know your team, and kind of working the benefits that obviously everybody gets the same benefits, but trying to find something that's important to you to keep you engaged in your role with us as well. So one of the things that a tool that I'm going to be using to draw therapists to come and work for us is just with the incredible massage-driven demand from guests, is employing some form of robotic AI to obviously say to them, the AI will take care of the majority of the deep tissue. Don't worry, you're doing beautiful holistic journeys and things that a therapist is supposed to be doing. And when you have a break, or you've had 3 deep tissue massages today and the machine's free, hop onto the robot and let's, I call him RoboCop. I'm going to let RoboCop sort you out. I think it's just making sure that people are aware that we are aware of their well-being as well, because the hotel industry does just have that stigma of you just work, you're always exhausted, and it's just boom, boom, boom the whole time, and trying to just kind of step away from that.
Very important that you offer self-care options for them, right? And we're in the business, and we're talking the talk. We have to be able to walk the walk too. So Taffryn, will you have a robotic massage device at the Six Senses London?
I'm hoping so. We're looking at it very, very seriously. So I just think it's part of the whole sort of biohacking space and sphere that we're moving towards. And like I said, for me, I'm a therapist, an ex-therapist. I haven't practiced for many, many years, but I feel for my team when their column is just booked with 6 massages for the day, and they want to treat somebody, and they, want to do something beautiful with the guests, and it's just this massage. So I feel it's going to be a really, really useful tool, not only for the guests, but for the therapists and for the whole team as well. It's going to be self-care for everybody in the hotel. F&B that's been on their feet the whole night, and perhaps somebody's hurt their back, or they're really struggling, and it's, hop onto the bed and RoboCop can sort you out.
RoboCop, I love this.
That's great to hear. I stay tuned, because in our podcast series, I think the next one up after you will be on robotic massage, and what's happening with it. It's really interesting. So let's just go back for a minute to the guests in London. I mean, I noticed when I was there this summer that there was a wide array of cultures, let's put it that way. I went into Harrods and I was like, what country am I in? It's really teeming with people from all over, as it should be. I mean, it's an iconic place to visit, but does that speak to new people coming in and wanting new and different biohacking, or does it speak to they're going to want more traditional? What are your thoughts on that? How you're going to plan your spa menus in the oncoming years?
Well, I think it also extends not just to the spa menu, but of course the facilities on offer. And as you just rightly said, there's different cultural contexts that we need to consider when we're planning and developing spas as well. And London is a hub of multicultural tourism. We need to have solutions for that as well. So, whether it's having privacy in terms of certain facilities to allow ladies and men to be separated, but also together as well. That's a real challenge because there are certain cultures that want to enjoy those facilities as single sex offerings. But of course, social wellness is such a trend right now, and people are wanting to spend more and more time together doing experiences like going to a spa when they maybe would have gone to a restaurant and had a big boozy dinner otherwise. So it's being able to be as flexible as possible in catering to that. So and that's one of our biggest topics at the moment, anyway, for us here as a group.
Yeah, it's certainly
I
a
think
challenge. Go ahead,
sorry,
Hattie.
Lisa.
Go Taffryn.
No, I think, as Hattie says, I think it's just also finding, what is the service that you're offering to the guest. And, ours is going to be very wellness driven. There are the guests that want to go in, have the massage, go for dinner. The ones, maybe some of them want more beauty services. We're not going to be offering beauty services. We're in this beautiful, iconic building in the Whiteley, which is going to have a whole lot of retail units beneath us as well, where we'll have, a professional brow bar and a professional nail bar and a hairdresser. So, for us in the spa and the hotel, the focus is really, really going to just be on a wellness journey that covers many areas, sort of mental, emotional, spiritual, fitness, longevity, detoxification, yoga, breath work. So yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Taffryn, when you were at Four Seasons, or now for you, Hattie, have you had instances of guests just not being able to come and enjoy because they're not separated by gender? Has that been an issue?
Well, Taffryn at Four Seasons had an amazing space for that. I was going to say, I don't know if you want to explain it, but it was perfectly set up for that.
So interestingly enough, so we had gender separate facilities because we had a very, very strong Middle Eastern following. The owner of the hotel was obviously Middle Eastern. So for them, we had to keep it separated. And we had the most complaints that we had were from our American guests because they wanted to have the facilities together. And as Hattie says, the whole spa facility, your contrast bathing now is something that's coming to be quite a social thing. I mean, if you think of the hammams in Turkey, it's a big social place where everybody's just getting washed and scrubbed and talking and jumping in the hot pool and talking and relaxing. So, I think separate gender facilities, it's still big, but there needs to be a communal facility as well, that option to have the communal time together as well.
Exactly. I think exactly that, having options as much as possible always, and being able to personalize and have multifunctional spaces is good. So we have at the moment at Claridges, we have the male and female changing rooms with sauna and steam inside, and then the swimming pool is together. So we sort of tick both boxes. However, as Taffryn said, you can't please everyone. And so, that's often a comment that we receive as well. And so I think this movement towards these kind of suites and having your hot and cold privatized in one space and being able to rent spaces will solve that problem a lot.
I suppose if you're a guest, then you would explore what facilities worked for you, and you go to that one if that is something that you're really governed by and you need to do that. But it is prohibitively expensive, obviously, to build like basically two separate spas, especially in an urban environment. But it's hard to make all the guests happy. As you said, Hattie, we can't make everyone happy. We can only try. So is there anything else exciting coming up in London later this year? Any more openings that haven't happened yet besides you, Taffryn?
I know Rosewood is opening soon. We've also got Auberge, which is another very big hotel group coming soon. And they've also got a beautiful, iconic building that they're moving into. So, there's something happening all the time. So,
yeah, and of course, it's not just hotel spas. We've got these longevity clinics and clubs popping up everywhere and anywhere. And so
day spas, spas are very centered around the whole sort of social thing as well, and day spas with the medical combination, that's very big at the moment as well. I mean, we're putting in medical facilities as well because you have to, when you're doing biohacking and stuff like that. So there's lots happening in London, lots and lots.
I was amazed when I toured the Bulgari that they had a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Wow, that's amazing.
We have one at Suran as well, actually.
We've got one at Suran. We're going to have one as well. It's pretty much, you can't not have one. Lots of the standalone day social clubs. We've got Grey Wolf in London, for example. They've got hyperbaric. So, yeah.
It's funny though, it's hard to assess what's fashionable and obviously what's got longevity, excuse the pun, in terms of what you're putting in as well, because hyperbaric, or my experience anyway, is that commercially it's so difficult. It's a hard sell. You're selling a package of treatments to something that you're probably going to feel some benefits after 5 or 6 sessions. You might not feel it, but your blood work might show it. It's a difficult sell, these things, and especially from a hotel perspective where we're dealing with a lot of transient guests here as well. It's interesting, it's challenging, and it'll be interesting to see over the next few years what's still being put in and what's being changed.
I think what's really neat, what we're doing, which is great, is we're putting a 2-seater in.
Nice.
And the two seats face each other.
Yes.
And we're doing that to encourage our members to, when they have a meeting, to perhaps have it in the hyperbaric chamber. So, cool. Sit face to face, have your meeting in a hyperbaric chamber, and then maybe go and sit afterwards and have an IV or something like that. So I'm super excited about the hyperbaric chamber, and I'm definitely weaving it into a lot of my spa journeys as well, that it's going to be part. And of course, we're going to have the diagnostics with it. As Hattie says, you need to be able to see that, because you don't feel too much afterwards, but you need to be able to see it. Sometimes when you see the data in front of you, it has that mental of, oh my gosh, yes, wow, I am more alert and bright and fresh. So I'm super excited to have the hyperbaric, and specifically the 2-chamber for us.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the future will be that everyone in London is bright and alert and happy and healthy, and because they're partaking of all these great wellness options. Wonderful to hear. Thank you, ladies, both for joining us today. Really interesting to hear what's going on in these different markets.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good luck to both of you. And Taffryn, when you're open, I'll come for a visit soon enough.
Absolutely. Please do. Sure.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.